Let's talk about one of the oldest questions we've ever asked ourselves. What's the actual shape of our world? The answer literally starts right beneath our feet. So today, we're going to play detective and follow the clues.
Okay, so let's just get this out of the way. Why would anyone think the Earth is flat? I know, it sounds a little silly today, right? But seriously, this is the most important place for us to start.
Because, and this is the key, from our tiny little human perspective, it is flat. Think about it. For our ancestors, everything they saw, everything they experienced, screamed flat. This wasn't about being smart or not. It was just the most logical conclusion you could possibly make.
Yeah, for them, the world was this huge, stable thing. It wasn't moving. You couldn't see any curve. So of course they thought it was flat. Everything their senses told them pointed to that one simple fact. Just picture yourself standing on a beach. The water looks totally flat, stretching out forever. You don't feel like you're on a giant ball hurtling through space at 1,000 miles an hour, do you? No. Our senses are telling us one thing, but the reality is completely different. And pretty early on, some really clever people started noticing little things, little glitches in the matrix that just didn't quite fit the flat Earth picture.
Okay, so let's dive into those clues. This is where the real detective story starts. You had these ancient thinkers, especially sailors and people who watched the stars, and they started seeing things on the horizon that hinted at a much bigger, much stranger reality.
And we're not talking about some super complicated science here. These were just simple things anybody could see if they were paying attention. Watching a ship sail away, or looking at the moon during an eclipse, or just noticing how the stars change when you travel. Each one of these was like a little breadcrumb, a piece of a giant cosmic puzzle.
So check this out. It's so simple but so powerful. If the Earth were flat, a ship sailing away would just get smaller and smaller and smaller, until it was just a tiny dot. But that's not what people saw. They noticed that the bottom of the ship, the hull, disappeared first, then the sails, and the very last thing to vanish was the top of the mast. There's only one explanation for that. The ship isn't just moving away from you, it's going over a curve.
Okay, clue number 2 comes from up in the sky. A lunar eclipse, right? That's when the Earth gets right between the sun and the moon, and our planet casts this big shadow on the moon's surface. And here's the thing about shadows. The shape of the shadow tells you the shape of the thing casting it. It's that simple.
And the ancient Greeks, guys like Aristotle, were all over this. They noticed that every single time there was an eclipse, the shadow our Earth cast on the moon was always a perfect circle. Always. Now think about it. Could a flat disk make a round shadow? Sure, but only if the light hits it from one perfect angle. From any other angle, it'll look like an oval. So what's the only shape that casts a perfect circular shadow no matter how you turn it? A sphere. Boom. Game changer.
Okay, this is where things get really cool. Because we're about to go from just saying, hey, it looks round, to actually measuring it. This is the moment we go from just looking to doing the math. And this is where you just have to be amazed at human ingenuity.
All right, let's hop in our mental time machine. We're going back to about 240 BC. There's this incredibly smart guy, a mathematician named Eratosthenes, and he's in charge of the legendary Library of Alexandria. And he decides he's going to figure out just how big our world is. And his tools? You're going to love this. He used sticks, shadows, and his own brain. That's it.
The way he did it is it's beautiful in its simplicity. So he heard that in a city to the south, Sienne, on one particular day of the year, the sun was straight overhead, no shadows. But at that exact same time back in his city of Alexandria, a stick in the ground did cast a shadow. So he measured the angle. It turned out to be about 1/50th of a full circle. And right there, that was the key. He figured if the angle is 1/50th of a circle, then the entire planet's circumference must be 50 times the distance between the two cities. How brilliant is that?
And the number he came up with, get this, his calculation was about 25,000 miles. That is ridiculously close. We're talking within just 2% of the number we have today, a number we got using satellites and lasers and all our modern tech. He figured that out over 2,000 years ago. It's just mind-blowing.
Okay, let's jump forward to right now. Because today, it's not just about shadows and chips anymore. The proof is everywhere. Our entire modern world, everything we do, is literally built on the fact that we live on a globe.
Seriously, just think about your day-to-day life. The GPS on your phone. It only works because it's talking to satellites that are orbiting a sphere. If the math was based on a flat plane, you'd end up miles away from your destination. Or how about airplanes? Pilots don't fly in straight lines on a map. They fly in great circles. They look like weird curves on a flat map, but on a globe, they're the shortest possible path. It all hinges on the Earth being round.
And this really brings it home. For the Earth to be secretly flat, think about the conspiracy you would need. We're not talking about a handful of people. We're talking about millions. Every pilot, every ship captain, every GPS engineer, every single satellite technician from every single country, all in on the same lie for decades without a single person ever slipping up. It's just not plausible.
Yeah, this quote says it all. If the Earth were flat, everything would just stop working. The proof isn't tucked away in some old textbook. It's the phone in your pocket. It's the flight you take on vacation. It's how you get a weather forecast. The proof isn't just an idea. It's what makes our world function.
So this brings us full circle, right back to that first question. If all the evidence, ancient and modern, is so overwhelming, why, when we look outside, does it still look so darn flat?
Well, this is probably the best way to think about it. Imagine an ant walking on a basketball. To that tiny ant, the surface feels completely flat, right? It's too small to notice the curve. And, well, we're the ants. The Earth is so mind-bogglingly huge compared to us that its curve is just too big, too gentle for our little eyes to see from the ground. It all comes down to a matter of scale.
And, just to get super precise for a second, science shows us the Earth isn't even a perfect sphere. Because it's spinning, it actually bulges out a little bit at the equator and gets a tiny bit squashed at the poles. It's what's called an oblate spheroid. Now, there's no way our eyes could ever pick that up, but our instruments can. And that's just such a cool reminder of what science is really for, right? It's a tool that lets us see the world as it really is, not just how it looks to us.
So from those ancient sailors watching ships disappear over the horizon, all the way to the complex math that guides our satellites today, the journey to understand our planet's shape has always been about one thing: being willing to look past what our eyes tell us and just follow the evidence. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other huge truths are out there, hiding in plain sight, just waiting for us to discover them?